John F. Kennedy Jr. was an American socialite and son of historic figures President John F. Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy. He was born November 25, 1960 in Washington, D.C., making him a Sagittarius. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy was an American socialite that worked in the fashion world and was also the wife of John F. Kennedy Jr. She was born January 7, 1966 in White Plains, New York, making her a Capricorn. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette married in 1996 and were the subject of media coverage for the entirety of their marriage. For John, he was famous his entire life as he was the son of a beloved late president. Much has been written about their relationship, and as their death anniversary was just last Wednesday, and there's a documentary that's going to be coming out on August 9th on JFK Jr., they are in the media yet again. John was America's prince, and Carolyn his beautiful and fiery wife. And I think the very down-to-earth way that John lived, living in New York City and being very active and charming, marrying a woman that wasn't famous, made him and her very popular. People were very curious about them as a couple and very intrigued by Carolyn. She had a rep for being strong and quick-witted, very New York born and bred. And she had a timeless sense of style that is still referenced and admired in 2025. I will be doing birth chart breakdowns into each of them individually one day, but in honor of their death anniversary just passing, they have been gone from this life now for 26 years. I wanted to honor them as a couple and delve into what their relationship might have been like according to the energies of their birth charts. And they were together for a rather long time, so I am curious about the complexities of their connection. They were famously on and off again prior to marriage, and their connection spanned from 1994 to their tragic deaths in 1999. Mercury square Venus. John's Mercury was in Scorpio and Carolyn's Venus in Aquarius and was regressed. This aspect indicates that what can be seen as either intellectual chemistry or intellectual tension, where both of them, when speaking, likely were often agitated that the other person always cut them off or spoke over them because there was such an excitement in the conversation. This can be good or bad because when a couple is falling in love, this is very intriguing. But over time, it can be frustrating, especially if you're having a disagreement and can't get your point across, and you find the other person lacking in substance because they can't see from your point of view. In John's case, his Mercury sign was in Scorpio, which is a water sign, making him a more impassioned speaker. He may have made very big declarations to Carolyn and may not have been afraid to go deep in conversation, but her Venus was in Aquarius, so she likely appreciated a very cerebral romance, or at least she was so used to that kind of relationship. So John was probably very intriguing to her first and vice versa. Perhaps his ability to go deep, as indicated by his Scorpio Mercury, was exactly what she liked at times because it was so anti what she expected in a relationship. The Aquarian Venus would have made her kind of detached in love, liking an intellectual connection more than emotional. And because of John's deep Scorpion intelligence, he was able to go the way with her. Mercury square Mars. John's Mercury was again in Scorpio, and Carolyn had an Aquarius Mars. This aspect indicates again that intellectual connection, being a source of contention between the two, leading to impassioned conversation bordering on explosive arguments. John's penetrating Scorpio Mercury could have clashed with Carolyn's elusive Aquarian Mars. She was driven by ideas of freedom and probably wasn't easy to place because maybe her ideas changed a lot, or she was unpredictable, or perhaps just very detached, not an emotional speaker. And this could have been frustrating to John, who likely liked to feel like he knew who he was dealing with. Mars sextile Pluto. The interplay of these planets reflects the part of the relationship that has to do with the drive of the couple. John's Mars was in Cancer. If your Mars is in Cancer, it means you are driven by your heart, not your head. You do everything for your loved ones, and you cannot do things you don't have passion for. Carolyn's Pluto was in Virgo. Pluto is the transformation planet, and in Virgo, it makes someone very particular when it comes to change. They like to plan and execute when they see an issue, and Virgos also love to help people. So this can come across as critical because they can be very pushy about wanting what's best for situations and people. This harmonious blend, as indicated by the sextile, means that there was a tendency towards passion in their relationship. Carolyn pushed John and activated his primal instinct to protect and grow. She wanted to bring out the best in him, and he wanted to grow with her. There was a lot of passion. This is a very beautiful aspect to have. Mars trine Chiron. This one's interesting because, like I said, John's Mars was in Cancer, but Carolyn's Chiron sign was in Pisces, and she had it in her first house. Meaning, she likely at some point in her life struggled with confidence and assertion, because this placement usually reflects a very empathic person. This aspect indicates that John's very presence might have been inspiring to Carolyn because he encouraged her by simply being his confident self to be confident as well. When you look at John, he seemed to be someone who was very sure of himself. He knew who he was, he understood his legacy and his own place in it, and he had a very understanding relationship for the most part with the press. Carolyn, on the other hand, did not, and struggled with the transition of being anonymous to being infamous for being his wife. So it's interesting that this aspect comes up given the context of the relationship. In turn, this aspect indicates that Carolyn gave John perspective to calm him down a little bit because he was a very go, go, go type of guy. So a lot of healing likely took place in this relationship. Sun opposite North Node. John was a Sagittarius and Carolyn's North Node was in Gemini. This opposition reflects a karmic relationship. There was a familiarity upon first meeting that really attracted them to each other. But this familiarity can lead to too much of a comfort that proper growth, particularly on Carolyn's end, wasn't present. Carolyn's Gemini North Node meant she had to grow intellectually. She was very curious, and her life's mission was to follow that curiosity, expand in that area. With this aspect, however, there is a clash with John's fun-loving Sag Sun. Perhaps the relationship was a big whirlwind for Carolyn, and she may have felt hindered a little bit by it. Friends of Carolyn often talk about how stressful the spotlight was for her in that relationship, and how her having to stop working due to the scrutiny really affected her happiness. They also had North Node opposition Saturn, which further indicates a karmic relationship where they each were meant to learn about discipline from each other. Mercury trine Saturn. Although the relationship could be stressful for Carolyn due to outside stressors, she found herself very useful in John's career. John would have definitely benefited from Carolyn's advice. Her Saturn was in Pisces, meaning she was able to discipline her emotions to get the job done. And John's Mercury in Scorpio means he appreciated attention to even the smallest detail, as Scorpio is very investigative. This harmonious blend of energies means she was able to offer very practical support to him, and even if they had very lively and passionate conversations at other instances, when it came to professional conversations and work, they were on the same page and appreciated each other's insight. Saturn conjunct Sun. This aspect is very intense. John's Saturn sign was in Capricorn, and Carolyn was a Capricorn Sun. It's important to understand that when someone's Saturn is conjunct your Sun, it means that they're actively repressing the part of their personality that you so easily express. So there is a judgment they indirectly or directly place on you that could cause you to lose your confidence. John, being a Sag Sun and very freedom-loving, likely repressed more strict, disciplined aspects of behavior, and Carolyn was a consummate Capricorn, more detached and probably liking stability. Now, this is a conjunction, so it's not inherently bad, but it can be depending on the maturity of the people involved. John likely felt restricted by Carolyn's energy, and Carolyn could have felt thrown off kilter at times by John's energy and restricted herself in being anything other than his guide to keep him on the right path. However, Saturn's presence does indicate commitment. Ascendant opposite Saturn. This aspect reinforces the previous aspect. John's Virgo ascendant was in contrast with Carolyn's Pisces Saturn. Virgos are very lofty and big idealists, and that Pisces Saturn, especially in the sensitive first house placement that hers is in, creates a dynamic where John feels stifled because Carolyn is more serious. His more creative and laid-back approach to living is something that Carolyn felt insecure about, and so there could be a sense of repression in the relationship if it wasn't properly balanced. Neptune square ascendant. Neptunian aspects are always painful because they deal with the unconscious. John's Neptune was in Scorpio and Carolyn was an Aquarian rising. This aspect reflects a tendency to misjudge each other. John's deeply penetrative and emotional Scorpio Neptune couldn't get a hold on Carolyn's evasive Aquarian nature. She was someone who really believed in maintaining her individuality, and John craved a deep emotional connection, while maybe not always being clear on exactly what he expected, as indicated by the watery Neptune. This would have made the relationship kind of shaky, and that probably explains why they had an on-again, off-again thing going on before fully committing through marriage. Venus sextile Saturn. This again reaffirms the commitment they had to each other. Venus deals in love, and Saturn is commitment and dedication. And to have this in your Synastry chart means they immediately fell into the roles in the romantic relationship. They likely share the same values in terms of commitment and long-term dating, which is very beneficial. John was more Venusian, and Carolyn was more cerebral with the Saturn, and this balance was delicate in other aspects of their chart. But they did have this aspect, which would have made for potential for the balance to bring stability and respect for what the other person brought to the table. Mars sextile Uranus. This simple aspect just means that John saw the uniqueness of Carolyn, who was certainly a very intriguing person and was very excited by her. He found her very interesting and different, and it made him act spontaneously. Midheaven trine ascendant is another simple aspect that reflects the supportive nature of the relationship in regards to each other's career and public image. How Carolyn represented herself with that unique Aquarian ascendant was very beneficial to John's career. His midheaven was in Gemini, and that would have made his reputation a professional image reflective of a very intelligent and versatile person. And Carolyn's image was supportive of that because she was also versatile and unique in how she came across. Sun conjunct midheaven is similar, and they have it as well. John's obviously a Sag Sun, and Carolyn's midheaven was in Sagittarius. This conjunction suggests that John's career and the esteem it had was beneficial to Carolyn in that it offered her a way to live a more creative life where there was the ability to do more outside of a typical 9-to-5. This one would have been very beneficial to her as someone who really valued freedom inherently, as reflected by that Sag midheaven. Mars opposite Sun. This aspect marks competitive energy between the two that could lead to pettiness. Too much arguing over time erodes attraction in any relationship. And Carolyn's Capricorn Sun and John's Cancer Mars made him sensitive and her kind of self-righteous. There was a couple more aspects I didn't explore in this chart that were at the bottom of their chart, having more looser orbs. But what I did explore, I feel, was very explanatory of their relationship dynamic, what it might have been like. They were certainly a beautiful couple to look at, and they're still so intriguing 26 years later. Seeing photos of them and footage of them is still so exciting because they truly did look good. But what I love about their chart is that even though they clearly had their problems to work through, there was a genuine commitment to each other. They had a lot of Saturn placements. And you can tell that the complexities of the relationship likely worked for them. The passion was likely enough to keep them interested in each other and their relationship. And one wonders certainly what great things they would have done together in this world had they lived even just a decade longer than they did. I love doing this video, and I send my love to their families and friends during the anniversary time. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up. And if you're interested in clothing that reflects spirituality, astrology, and numerology, you can shop my clothing website, Spiritual Astrologers by AS, that I will also link below. Sorry for the long wait, but I'll be back next week. Thanks for subscribing.